Hi, welcome to today's Carrier Update. My name's Dean Croke, Chief Insight Officer at FreightWaves. Today we want to talk a little bit about the Pacific Northwest and some of the freight market imbalances we typically see. In particular, we're going to talk about the state of Washington, which is a #1 producer of things like apples, pears, onions, raspberries, potatoes. It's also the largest producer of apples in the country. It produces something like 125 million boxes per year. That translates into about 2.5 million tonnes. About 30% of that goes for export to about 60 different countries. And of the 70% of the annual harvest that's left, most of that goes by road. And when we break it down into truckload shipments, it's something like about 200 loads a day gets shipped out of the Pacific Northwest across the entire country. On the chart behind us, you can see to the right the Pacific Northwest, which are the dark blue areas up here. You can see the markets of Spokane, Washington State, Portland, and then right in the top left corner you can see the market of Seattle, which is white. And what we're looking at here is the refrigerated tender outbound reject index, which tells you about capacity and spot price movement in that particular market. The darker the blue, the higher the tender rejection rate for refrigerated trucks, which means that spot prices are generally going to go up and capacity is tightening, which is consistent with the increase in produce out of that particular market this year. So there's already a lot of tightness in that market. There's a lot of carriers who want to run into the Pacific Northwest. But the message today is that if you're a motor carrier in the Seattle market, which is a strong backhaul market, then it'd be a good time to run a couple of hours Deadhead over to the Spokane market, or even the Twin Falls or Pendleton markets, especially around the Yakima Valley. So in the Spokane market, if we have a look at our next chart here, you can see that tender volumes have increased about 47% in the last 4 weeks. The tender rejections have actually averaged about around the 30% mark over the course of the year, which is telling you that carriers are rejecting about a third of all the loads that are sent out of the market. Right now, today, tender rejections are up here at the 23.38% mark. So volumes are increasing. Just in the last week, volumes have increased about 45%. So what you can see is that as volumes are increasing towards the weekend, the blue line here is the volume, and over here on the green line, that's the refrigerated tender reject index. You can see it's increasing. But on the orange line, which is the Seattle market, you can see that Seattle refrigerated tender rejections are going down, which tells you in the Seattle market capacity is loosening and there's downward pressure on spot rates. So if you're a carrier today in the Seattle market and you're looking for loads on the weekend to get your drivers out of the Pacific Northwest with some weekend miles, then you'd want to run the 200 miles or the 2 hours deadheading into that specific market. 2 hours will get you to the east side of the Washington state where there's a lot of apples. A little bit further out in the sort of 100 to 200 mile deadhead range, you'll start to get into the markets where there's more apple production and things like hops, etc. So that's the message today, the carrier update. If you're in the Pacific Northwest on Friday and you're looking for some weekend miles for your drivers, there is plenty of freight, especially out in the Spokane and Twin Falls area, particularly in the Yakima Valley, right in the middle of Washington.
Improve your fleet's efficiency with AT&T Fleet Complete, a 4G solution for tracking vehicles and simplifying ELD compliance. AT&T Fleet Complete, delivering fleet solutions for every business.